Joining us is a man who's no stranger to the Observer. Let me say a pleasant good evening to Point-a-Pierre MP and UNC Shadow Minister of Energy, Dr. David Lee. Pleasant good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, Mikee, as always, and to your viewers and listeners out there in your great program.
Thank you so much. I know it's hectic right now, the internals, but we are going to get to that. But first of all, the Energy Minister has rubbish claims that the recent recognition of a U.S. $1.3 billion arbitral award to U.S.-based energy giant ConocoPhillips in Trinidad and Tobago against Venezuela's state-owned oil and gas companies will not apparently affect the 30-year exploration and production license for the Dragon gas field. This according to the Energy Minister. Please enlighten us, because we're hearing so much that's being bandied about.
Well, Mikee, I mean, it's not like I am not surprised at what the Minister of Energy has said about that whole Conoco, the lawsuit and the claim that they have made on the Dragon gas field. And let me put it squarely. I mean, it will affect the terms on the Dragon gas deal unless there's some agreement that comes, that takes place between Conoco and the whole PDVSA Venezuelan government. So the Minister of Energy, as always, because he has no other choice, because he has to paint the nice picture, because remember, what they have done nothing in the last 9 years, this government, on the energy sector, and their dream and hope is 2027 and 2028. There's nothing substantial has been created by this Minister of Energy, and the Conoco issue is another issue that's being played out with that whole issue of the Dragon gas field that this government is banking on, because they have nothing else. They have done nothing in our local in our local waters to really incentivize our energy sector in our country. And you would have seen that in the last round of bid rounds. Mm-hmm. Out of 12, I think it was 12 bid rounds, only 3 was accepted. So it's another failure by this government. This is after the Minister of Energy said before that he was on a road show trying to ensure that these bid rounds are taken up. And it is a failure. But he wouldn't admit that. And we are in treacherous times, because our revenues, we are not getting the kind of revenues from our main sector, which is the energy sector. That is why you see, Mikee, that Minister Imbert can make a statement on Monday, and it came out in the news on Tuesday, about the jeopardy of not being able to finance our CDAT, our medical program, because our revenues are not there because of the shortfall that is being met in our energy sector. So it's a whole domino effect. So Minister of Energy has to paint a rosy picture, and he has to do that, because they have nothing else to report on. And I would not be surprised on Friday in the media review that is taking place, that he comes with the normal rhetoric and blame the Kamala-led government between 2010 and 2015. So I am ready for him in that media review on Friday. So I'm sure he will come with the same public relations stunt that he has been announcing on in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, but what's surprising here is that after making that statement, he did come back, of course, and said that the government was seeking legal advice
Correct.
on the court's recognition of the ICC award. And
Correct.
he said this order of the judge was made without notice to the state, and lawyers and legal proceedings will decide the standing of the ICC. Is it that basically, once again, they've been caught with their pants down?
As always, I agree with you, Mikee, that he is doing a peg back. So you see, on one hand, he's saying it wouldn't affect, and then on the other hand, as you just read out, he has to get legal advice, what implications it would have. And all Minister Young should have said, I read what happened, anything, and we are seeking legal advice, how it would impact on the Dragon gas deal that we have. He should have been honest with the population and come out so, but he hasn't. He has come out in his normal arrogant way to paint a picture that they know what they're doing. This government is the only expert in energy, and they know what they're doing, but they haven't been a failure, Mikee, and you know that in the last 9 years, especially under the leadership of Minister Young. So nothing. I'm not surprised by the rhetoric that Minister Young keeps putting out to again give the impression that we are unpatriotic when we drill down on the issues that are Friday.
Yeah, definitely, because again, so much information, and we are made to believe as citizens here that so much is hinged onto this entire deal. We've been hearing about it. It has been sold to us as the best thing since sliced bread. When you look at the terms of the current deal, sources within Venezuela disclosed that Venezuela was close to approving a license for Shell and NGC to develop the Dragon field and to export subsequent gas products to TNT. And negotiations were expected to take place, of course, at that time in November 2023. Since then, things have been happening here, there, and the goalpost seems to be shifting. How real is this gas deal? And when it comes to benefits, let me ask, when it comes to benefits, what can we expect and when can we expect it?
Well, let me put it from as far as when we can expect it. When we can expect it, my decay is as our best picture could be 2025 if it does happen, and it's still up in the air if this could really be fruitful for this country. Now, we are banking, our oil and gas production has been the lowest in our history, my decay. So if on a best case in 2027 this happens, how we are in now 2024. How are we supposed to survive as a country in the next 3 or 4 years, waiting on this egg to crack? And what we as a country, and that is why Imbert it has sound a message to the population that he is unable, they might be unable to keep financing the CDAP program based on the revenues that this country is getting because of the destruction. Right, so you have to understand the picture that Imbert is painting, that our CDAT program, which a lot of our social individuals, our country, our people, so depend on in that CDAT program for their medical assistance to
break
ensure
any curse in the
a
house or
livelihood,
work.
ensure their life. So we are in treacherous times, my decay. So don't let this government. I mean, we have a lot to say in the media review on Friday, because they are coming to ask for $2.3 billion more. And you will remember the whole fiasco with the Auditor General report for the 2023 fiscal year. Up till now, this government has not come clean to say what is the true deficit in 2023. All right, so we are in and they keep borrowing money at the expense of the taxpayers and the young people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, and you're right. And I mean, this keeps going on, and there's a lot of borrowing taking place. And you're right. I guess we have to wait and see how this thing develops on Friday. But at the end of it all, again, what is expected from this deal? We have been sold, as I said, the best thing, the future of this country. We're talking economic stability. We're talking about moving ahead, being globally competitive. But at the end of it all, there seems to be a lot of kinks in this so-called armor of this deal, and really and truly, we don't know how it's going to play off. But
and how would it play out if Presidential Trump wins the election in November in the USA? That's another dynamic that we have not. I don't think this government has catered for. If President Trump wins that election and he imposes further sanctions on the Venezuelan government, where would we with this dragon gas deal? But the critical question, my decay, is how are we going to survive as a country earning the revenues if we do not have that oil and gas? And we are banking on 2027. How are we supposed to survive our standard of living over for the next 3 years? And that is something that this government cannot answer.
And you're right. And as you mentioned before, we just can't sit there and listen to a presentation on Friday about the blame game. Here you have the energy minister saying again, ignore those that consistently wish the worst on our country. Do not ignore the irony that some who comment on the energy sector are responsible for what's going on between 2010 and 2015, including taking over $14 billion in cash from NGC and diverting same to non-energy projects. And again, we're still hearing this sort of narrative. We're still hearing this kind of talk being laid out there. When we, the people, want to know, listen, we want to live better. How is it going to become a reality if this dragon gas deal that is being sold to us as the best thing is not going to come to fruition?
And you know what's another marker in in our country today that we are in treacherous times. I read in the papers, I think it was either yesterday or this morning, where this the NIF fund, the National Investment Fund, lost $2 billion, Mikee, last year. And this is a fund created by Imbert and this government, and they touted it as the best thing from since sliced bread, you know. And if a fund with guild or critical high-end shares and companies have lost over $2 billion, what does that tell you about for us as a country? Where are we going?
But you know, the interesting about this, Dr. Lee, is that with all of this, and I mean, we could talk until way hours into the morning, even perhaps up to Friday or whatever. We've lived through this for the last 9 years as far as an economy that is stagnant, unemployment at an all-time high, people who need social assistance cannot get it. It's not easily accessible. Children who are students fell through the cracks. We heard it from the Prime Minister. Crime, which is a major issue. And we could go on and on about this, but what seems to stand out here, especially in the words of the opposition leader, as we shift now to the internal elections, she said, "This is the first time I have seen so many outside groups and parties attempting to harass the UNC members. This is a time when one will have to be on the same page to rescue this country from what is taking place. But instead, we have those who believe, whether they're guided or engineered by overblown ambition or political egos, who simply do not want to unite and go and make this thing happen." Why is that?
Well, the political leader, Mrs. Prasad, says is perfectly correct. And you have to ask the question, I have to ask, why at this time, when all our energies should be in removing the PNM that have destroyed our country in the last 9 years, that we have to be fighting an internal against our own colleagues? And that is the question I'm asking. Is there some invisible hand that is being played out by on these 5 individuals to ensure that there's disruption and chaos in our party to distract us from doing the work in removing this government?
And that's the thing about it. And again, when you look at what is being said, is it a matter of just simply venting that you don't like the process, or is it a matter of basically trying to destabilize the party?
But there's not one thing, I think it's destabilizing the party. I would be straight bang up, it is about destabilizing the party. And because there's not one, you listen to these individuals, there's not one clear policy how they would do it any better, you know. They just want to, and there's nothing, and these individuals do not have a history in our party, Mikee. And that is what is sad. I have gone through the length and breadth over the last 10, 12 days, Mikee. We have worked throughout the entire long weekend, from Holy Thursday right up to now. I am right now coming out of a meeting in Central, in Caroni Central, Mikee. And our crowds that we go out, we are meeting our members in every nook and cranny, and the crowds are coming out, and they are angry. They are angry what is happening with these 5 individuals. All right, they are angry, and I hope on June the 15th, you know, with confidence, that they will send a strong message to these 5 individuals.
I mean, something that you're very much committed to and dedicated to. When you hear a lot of what is being said as far as the entire process, about the party, about the political leader, how does this affect you politically and on a personal level as well?
On a personal level, let me start from a personal level, Mikee. These are 5 individuals who I have worked with, I have known, at least I thought I knew, all right? And I don't have a problem with people having ambition. Ambition is good for the soul. But you have to understand when to have this ambition. And you have to understand, you know, why is now, and why can't you just work with the party, work with the leader? We have 1 year to go towards a general election. Why you will want to insist that we have internal election and have a fight and a struggle? The only people who are smiling and laughing is the PNM, Mikee. And it is very sad that these 5 individuals who are intelligent people should know better. Because if you look at Mr. Rodney Charles, Mikee, if I could digress a bit, he has been our campaign manager in 2015. So he understood the struggle that we went through to try and win back the government under Mrs. Prasad Bissessar. He was the campaign manager for Mrs. Prasad Bissessar and the UNC in 2015. So if there's anybody who understood what is required, the struggle that we went through, and what is Mr. Charles. Mr. Charles is 74 years old. He should be a statesman at this point in time in his life, not fighting down the same party and individuals who he has worked with at 74 years old. He should be really giving back to the party in a statesman way, advice.
No, you're vying once again for the position of deputy political leader. Let me ask you this, because there are a lot of people out there, so much is always said, and that's the thing about the politics. There are times when it gets very dirty, it gets very muddy, and there's a lack of clarity through it all. That's why I must ask you this evening, who is David Lee?
Mikee, I'm glad for that answer. David Lee is a very simple individual who is fighting for his party and for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. My track record between 2010 and 2015 as the chairman of MIC Institute of Technology and my board, we did tremendous work for our young men and women who could not have gone on to tertiary education. We used to graduate 5,000 young men and women in our country in the different trades, the skills that is so important for the development of our country, Mikee. I mean, David Lee has never asked for any position. I struggle. I work with my political leader. I work with our party. I work with our national executive to improve the lives of our citizens, Mikee. Over 300,000 people depend on the United National Congress coming back into government. And if I could play a role in wherever that is, Mikee, I am happy to do that for our people and not fight down our own colleagues at this point in time or any time. I am not about that. So I would carry myself high, but I also am very concerned and hurt that why would we want to do this to the people and our members of our great party?
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for taking time out. I know you're still on the move.
Yeah,
reach home safely. I know you have another meeting to run to. Again, it's been a pleasure. Best of luck to you. June 15th. We'll be talking after that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.